Vor 60 Jahren starb bei einem Flugzeugunglück in München die halbe Fußballmannschaft von Manchester United. So kurz nach Kriegsende war der Umgang mit dem Unglück und die Versorgung der Verletzten ein Politikum und hat im Verhältnis der ehemaligen Kriegsgegner England und Deutschland lange nachgewirkt.
Trudering, 60 years on from the Munich air disaster, and more than 2,000 United fans pay their respects.
Today, I have heard some incredible stories from people who attended our players, our dying players.
Munich 1958 will never be forgotten. A side that many considered the best young football team the world had ever seen, devastated by the crash. That team was Manchester United. Flight 609 from Munich Airport is trying to take off. But there was a problem. Twice the pilot had to abort his takeoff. Technical and weather issues were causing the problem. On board was the football team of Manchester United, with its bright young talisman Duncan Edwards and manager Matt Busby. The mood on board was good. United had just won their European Cup quarter-final in Belgrade, knocking out Yugoslavian champions Red Star Belgrade. As the plane went down the runway for the third time, Johan Weiser found himself on the scene. He can clearly recall what happened.
Das Wetter war so miserabel, dass man keine 30, 40 Meter, es war ein Schneesturm.
The control tower at Rheims had given the go-ahead, despite the technical issues and the snowstorm. On board were 38 passengers and 6 crew members. Despite the technical problems, the plane attempted the runway for a third and final time. This time the silence was shattered as the plane overshot the runway and collided with a nearby house.
Das Haus ist unter lauter schwere Bäume gestanden. Das Flugzeug ist gekommen, hat zuerst die Bäume wegmähen müssen. Dann hat das Haus runtergeschoben.
There was a woman in the house at the time. As luck would have it for her, she was in the cellar. The fuselage of the plane was shattered. Passengers, injured, dying or dead, lay in the remains and on the runway. The casualties were taken to the Rex der Isar Hospital. They included Duncan Edwards and manager Matt Busby. Professor Peter Maurer has a passenger list, which his father George Maurer was given at the time of the disaster. All staff were immediately called in for briefing and all leave was cancelled. The hospital was ill prepared to deal with such a disaster.
Das muss man sich vorstellen, es gab eigentlich keine Intensivstation.
George Maurer and his team did everything in their power to help and care for the injured and dying. Twice manager Matt Busby was given the last rites. Katerina Kopper was a ward sister, caring for the victims along with the other nurses and staff. Lead carer for Matt Busby, she feared the worst, but in the end, Busby survived.
Ich glaube, der hat sich auch sehr Vorwürfe gemacht, dass das alles so passiert ist, Mr. Busby. Gell. Da war er schon immer sehr traurig.
Duncan Edwards and 7 other players did not survive. Their loss is mourned, along with the 15 other passengers and crew members who died. Altogether, 23 people lost their lives. A disaster that was mourned around the world. And yet something special and out of the ordinary was to happen a month after this tragic event, when all the staff who'd cared for the players were invited to Manchester. Official recognition for the nurses and for Professor George Maurer.
Das war natürlich eine große Begeisterung, dass das stattfindet und vor allen Dingen, dass nicht nur er eingeladen ist, sondern dass die ganze sozusagen Mannschaft, die Ärzte und die Schwestern.
31 members of staff were invited to England and received a warm reception in Manchester. The nurses were delighted to be known as Our Sisters from Munich. And Professor Maurer was honoured by the Queen. Even today, this friendship continues, as Manchester United supporters every year come to pay their respects at the memorial site. Mark Saltzman is one of a team who helped maintain the memorial.
Das ist in dieser Tragödie auch gezeigt worden, wie wichtig ist, dass man einander hilft. Und die Münchner damals haben gut geholfen.
To this day, that fact is not forgotten. When 2,000 United fans gathered on the 60th anniversary, they paid their respects and expressed their gratitude.
The flowers of Manchester.